Hello. So today we're starting a chapter 2 of Artist Experience. And the name of the chapter is The Life Creature and Ethereal Things. And also for today, I'm going to read out a poem for you. It's by John Keats. The name of the poem is A Thing of Beauty is a Joy Forever. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep, full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of inhuman dearth, of noble nature, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and or darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. The reason, again, why I read this poem is because the name of the chapter, A Life Creature and Ethereal Things, this expression is from John Keats' letter to Benjamin Robert Hayden, and I will read out that part for you. The sun, the moon, the earth, and its contents are to form greater things, that is, ethereal things, greater things than the Creator himself has made. So, who's John Keats? John Keats is a British poet, a romantic poet. And as you know, romantics are very romantic. And for John Keats, he had a very particular definition and perception of what beauty is. He thought that beauty doesn't come from the future. Beauty comes from the past. And it's beautiful because it already disappeared. And we have this nostalgic feeling for it. And that's why it's beauty. Partially agree with that. And also, for him, beauty was the highest truth and that of the grand majesty. And he thought that analytical science threatened the beauty because of its nature of being analytical, and that it demolished the core of the beauty. He was born in 1795 and then he died in 1821. So he lived a very short life of 25 years. So he's also like a very, very genius who died early. He's a very genius. He was a genius who, unfortunately, passed away too quick in his life. But he produced a lot of great literature and poems, so you can go search. After reading the definition of beauty from John Keats, this reminded me this part from The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry, and that line is by the fox, and the fox says, "And now here's my secret. It is only with heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to eyes." So, with this, let's start off talking about this chapter. Okay. So, when you listen to the word ethereal, what comes to your mind? Ethereal. It's something from the heaven, something that we cannot reach, something that's too noble. What's your opinion? So in the top chapter, John Dewey explains ethereal things could be translated into two things, and the first part is something that I just mentioned, something too noble and too classic and too heavenly that we cannot reach, like we normal people on earth cannot reach. And then the second definition he gives us is this is where that John Keats quote comes out of. Ethereal things are basically the recreation of artist by the artist looking at the God's creation. So I'll just read out the whole sentence because I think that might be easier to understand. Artists see the sun, moon, and a star, and its contents of the earth. But artists view them as a material for them to create even greater things, the ethereal things. Greater things mean creating new thing with God's creation. And because of that, it's greater than God's creation. Some may agree, some may not agree. But this is why this chapter is talking about artworks as ethereal things, a creation that's even greater than God's creation. It can be a very controversial statement, but let's try to understand a little bit more, and we can maybe do a discussion session later. And then John Dewey goes on about talking about imagination and the importance of it, and he says imagination is a tool for people to use it, synchronize it with our daily experience to create the ethereal things. So for him, imagination is a crucial tool for us to create an ethereal things. And again, he mentions a poem, the part of the poem by John Keats again, and it's from the poem called Ode to Grecian Urn. And it's very, very short. It goes like this. Beauty is truth, and truth is beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. Very short, right? So after that, he will talk about something. But I think it's better for me to read the quote again because it's very well explained. So Dewey says like this. Of course, living as a human being involves living a life that is persistently pursuing facts and reasons as an important part of life. But the problem is that such pursuit does not bring us truth that is the bright light to us. In spite of all the efforts to live the best life, human beings always face destruction and death. In the real world, the intense aesthetic experience as a human is the best comfort in the life of the moment. And this is what Keats is highlighting about the beauty. And he wrapped the chapter up by explaining that, by stating that there's two types of philosophers or philosophies in the world. And the first one is a philosopher who believes that he can acquire truth by reason, while distrusting his senses and experience that are in everyday life, and who further explores to find a eternal truth. And then there is a second one. Second one is a philosopher is someone who accepts life and experience in all its uncertainty, mystery, doubt, and half-knowledge, and turns that experience upon itself to deepen and intensify its own qualities to imagination and art. And this is the philosophy of Shakespeare and Keats. So, while reading this part, I could not help but thinking of the book that I love so much by Hermann Hesse. It's called Narcissus and Goldmund. I hope you have heard it before. If not, I strongly recommend you to go read that book. It's written by Hesse. It was written in 1927, and to briefly introduce you to what that story is about. Hesse split human beings are consisted with love, senses, and the intelligence. We are the product of that mergence. But in that book, he separates those two. So Narcissus, who's like a Narcissus. Narcissus, I think it's English a way of saying it. Narcissus is the one who believes the first type of philosopher that I just mentioned. The one that believes that the truth can be only acquired by reasoning and intelligence while distrusting all the senses and experiences. So Narcissus is that type of person. And the second one, Goldmund, is a one who experiences everything. He will go through everything even though he sometimes know how it will go. He's the second type of the philosopher. He's the one who accepts life and experience it and it's all uncertainty, mystery, doubt, and half knowledge, and turn into experience upon itself to deepen and intensify and elevate into an art. He's that type of person. And this is Korean, but the German name is Narzissen und Goldmund. Basically, narcissist and a gold mouth. So I really recommend you to go read it. It's a little bit, it's not thin, but it's worthwhile. I think it will make your life much better after you read it. So that's my recommendation. But while I was reading this John Dewe's book, I got this book and then I spread it out, and then I just got to the part that I just wanted to find, and I'll read out that part. So this book, the story goes like this. Narcissus is Goldmund's teacher, and Goldmund is the pupil of Narcissus. And Narcissus finds this potential for Goldmund to become an artist rather than a philosopher like him, and he encourages him to go and explore the world. So basically, the first part of this much is where those two encounter each other, and then this much of the story is the journey of Goldmund, and then the end here is talking about where they meet again, and I don't want to spoil too much if you're going to read the book. But I would say 2/3 of the book is just about Goldmund. Okay. So here's what Goldmund says at the end, and it just coincides so well with what we're talking about with this John Dewey's philosophy. Okay. This is the line from Goldmund. You showed me that I had no calling for it. Then I threw myself into the other side of life, into the world of senses. And I was also fortunate enough in my experiences to learn that sensuality can be given a soul. Of it, art is born. This basically summarizes everything that we have been talking about, or we will be talking about in 12 chapters that's left. And then I want to read out also the line from Narcissus. It's a conversation between those two. This is Narcissus' line. I'm learning a great deal from you, Goldmund. I'm beginning to understand what art is. Formerly, it seemed to me that, compared to thinking and science, it could not be taken altogether seriously. I thought something like this. Since man is a dubious mixture of mind and matter, since the mind unlocks recognition of the eternal to him, while matter pulls him down and binds him to the transitory, he should strive away from the senses and toward the mind if he wishes to elevate his life and give it meaning. I did pretend, out of habit, to hold art in high esteem, but actually I was arrogant and looked down upon it. Only now do I realize how many paths there are to knowledge, and that path of mind is not the only one, and perhaps not even the best one. It is my way, of course, and I'll stay on it, but I see that you, on the opposite road, on the road of the senses, have seized the secret of being just as deeply and can express it in a much more lively fashion than most thinkers are able to do. And then Goldmund answers like this. Now you understand that I can't conceive thoughts without images. Images meaning imagination. And then Narcissus answers back like this. I have long since understood it. Our thinking is a constant process of converting things to abstractions, a looking away from the sensory and attempt to construct a purely spiritual world. Whereas you take the least constant, the most mortal things to your heart, and in their very mortality showed the meaning of the world. You don't look away from the world. You give yourself to it, and by your sacrifice to it, raise it to the highest a parable of eternity. We thinkers try to come closer to God by pulling the mask of the world away from His face. You come closer to Him by loving His creation and recreating it. Both are human endeavors and necessarily imperfect, but art is more innocent. Come on, what is this? This is like a perfect pair of philosopher's book, and then the novel version of it. This line, you come closer to Him by loving His creation and recreating it. This is chapter 2, what I just told you. So, yeah, I got goosebumps when I read this again, because all the coincidences, and I'm very grateful. Maybe it's my own satisfaction, but if it's not conveyed, I will try harder to communicate more. And yeah, so the second chapter, it's further deepening what we talked in the chapter 1. It's all coherent, but here we're going to go more deep into what we are focusing on, which is what is art and how art should be experienced. And experience is the core concept that is required in our life in order to go through an aesthetic experience, which leads to art being completely in our life. And thank you so much for watching, and I will come back this Saturday with chapter 3 and more quotes and other things that I love, because I love sharing. Have a good day or night, and I wish you all the best. Bye bye.